You have to tell me when we're recording, Shane.
We are back, and this is one of those conversations I think, man, I'm profoundly honored to have you here, man.
Thank you.
We got the one and only, the author of Freedom, the guy that probably first introduced me to the liberty movement from a veteran's point of view, for sure, man. I saw you dancing around in the Jefferson Memorial. Great breakfall, by the way. I am a fan of
No,
your...
yeah, dude, if it wasn't for
Bro,
McMahon, Marine Corps
man.
Martial Arts Program, like tuck the chin, slap the ground.
Yeah.
No, and I know this is something a lot of people see and don't appreciate the physicality of what happened to me.
But
that I was picked up from behind by a cop.
Yeah.
Choke slammed in midair. His knee went into my ribs, and you go, if you slow down the video and look at that, you go, holy crap! I didn't know ribs were that flexible. I mean, like it goes, his knee, and nothing was broken there.
And he just keeps laying there. He's not squinting in pain. He's not. Like,
and the cop loses his sunglasses, and mine stay on. But his knee goes into my ribs like 6 inches, and you look at it, you're like, whoa! How did he not like bust internal organs? Well, the human body's pretty resilient. But then, yeah, tucked my chin, slapped the ground, and if I had. Even if I had screwed up, and I'm not like saying I'm some kind of martial arts badass
it's just
here,
basic training.
But in rugby, knowing how to take a fall, But if anybody who didn't have that physical reaction of tucking the chin had gotten thrown on the marble like that, you would have whipped your skull back into the marble,
that's nasty.
And I would probably be drooling in a wheelchair right now, if not dead. I mean, that's the kind of like head trauma on a perfectly hard surface that'll mess you up.
I didn't even know you were a Marine at that point. I saw it, and I was just like, man, that's pretty good breakfall.
He dances like a Marine.
Yes, you do. And I know that probably because of all my late nights out in Carlsbad down there. Hey, man, you're running for president of the LP right now.
Well, hold on. You got to know what I was listening to when that happened.
Oh, what were you?
Put your back into it. Yeah.
No, you weren't.
Yeah.
Was it serendipitous, or did you know you were going to get slammed?
Oh, no, I had no idea. But it was just like, this is a good beat. I know. I picked the song very deliberately. Ice Cube, put your back into it.
Yeah.
This is gonna get me. This is gonna get me dancing enthusiastically. If no one knows what I'm listening to, especially
that's your beat, huh?
Oh yeah.
Nice. You kept at it, man. You have been persistent. You've kept at it over the years. You've worked your ass off. I've seen you hustle. I've seen you through your tough times, man, and I'm blown away. You had a great night last night. You came in here. Congratulations, by the way. What was it, 46 to, I think you
47, 29, 26, 21, and it's a really interesting slate with myself and Joe Jorgensen, and Behrman Supreme and Dan Behrman. They are all
Lincoln
great
Chafee
candidates.
was there,
but and I like Lincoln. I like him being in the race. I like him as a person. Obviously, we have our very distinct differentiations in political perspective, and I think he represents the wrong strategy for the party for 2020 in a lot of ways. But it is notable that he didn't make the top four, and they didn't announce the numbers for him. And I want him to be encouraged. I want everybody to be positive and welcoming, and he's going to become more libertarian over time. I think that's great that he's fine. Like, this is something we need to encourage more than anything. And he represents a bigger chunk of the American political demographic than we do. And we have to recognize that and show respect to that and make sure that he has a positive place and is respected for bringing his resume and his credibility into the party. I think that's huge. We have done our job, I think, with our campaign over the last 3 years of inspire, like, just because I started so early.
Yeah.
And, even as early as
it was
2 years ago.
Was it 2017?
The day I got arrested, I got arrested after we announced January 16.
I saw the whole promo, man. It was like, hey, this guy wants to take, it was everywhere. It was like, this guy wants to take over the government as president and disband it in a peaceful manner.
Well, hold on. We'll get to that. I'm not done talking about the competition because they're such great people, even Lincoln Chafee.
Yeah.
And, sorry, no, I was going somewhere important with that. No, we've brought enough, because I started running so early, and at least was able to plant the flag on that idea. it was the biggest sign of respect that I could possibly give to the Libertarian Party to say, I'm not going to jump in at the last minute and time this strategically. I'm going to run now, and I'm going to set the bar higher, and I'm going to put in the hustle, and I'm going to go to every single state convention that's logistically possible in the next 2 years. I'm going to treat 2018 like a warm-up for our campaign. We're going to bring delegates to New Orleans so that in 2020 we can bring delegates to Austin. And
it's
that
also
we can,
just smart.
Well,
on top of being respectful.
Well, no, because I will say same things about Gary Johnson, but the one thing Gary did more than anything that bothered me was that he had the nomination in 12. He knew he wanted it in 16. Mm-hmm. And he could have, at very least, we gave him the title of being the nominee of the party.
Yeah.
And at very least, he could have said, you know what, I'll work with the press secretary of the National Party, set up a little webcam in some corner of my house in Santa Fe, and I'll talk to the media once a week. I'll do some big podcast interview. Yeah. He do interviews on RT. There are plenty of he could have leveraged that. He could have built the party, and he didn't do that. And that was something that I'm like, well, you know what? My campaign's gonna be different on that count. And I think because of that, we've got enough people in the party now that the main way that Gary won was that there were so many empty delegate seats after state conventions that he was able to bring people in at the last minute. And I don't blame him for this at all. That's just being smarter. We're going to be trying to do the same thing, but I don't think we're going to have the opportunity because there should not be any empty delegate slots in any state in the country for the Libertarian Party. And what we've been seeing so far this season is that is the case.
Sure.
And one of the very first goals of my campaign was to say, we are going to make every single delegate slot in the country competitive so that it's grassroots activists who are deciding who the nominee is, not based on who has the money to bring in people to fill empty slots at the last second. Because that was really embarrassing for the party.
You feel like, right now there's a ton of oars in the water. With that same premise, you got Josh Smith, you've got Hornberger.
I love Josh Smith's energy coming in.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And there are a lot of people who want to pick apart our current chairman, Nick Sarwark. I don't want to do that. He's a great dude. Everybody who steps up to be chair and puts in the effort that he has deserves the appreciation of every libertarian, every human being in the world. He's an activist.
Yeah, and it's time to pass torch too. It's just one of those things where you got to refresh once in a while.
If there's a good guy, I don't care to pass the torch, but I don't think that you necessarily have to lose respect when you can give some well-earned criticism as well.
Yeah, no, I think
okay.
What Joshua Smith brings in terms of energy and stepping it up, and I'm excited to be supporting him, and I in a sense I support everybody who's running a serious campaign for chair. I'm excited to see what Mike Shipley has as a proposition to nominate someone from left libertarianism for variety, as he would say. I want to hear him debate, and Joe Bishop Henchman in the race as well.
Yeah. I'm
excited to see. He's someone I've had a lot of respect for a long time. Same with Mike Shipley. So back to the other candidates though, Vermin and Behrman, what they represent for the party is like a fundamentally different strategy, and what I'm proposing is in the same way. I don't have an attention getting presentation. It's the idea itself. I'd like to think that we can achieve because I very much respect their strategic proposal to the Libertarian Party.
I'll tell you, I was watching that yesterday, and I was just like, God, everybody is exponentially better than everything right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's because they're not following usual politics.
Sure.
The problem you had with Gary sounds like he did what usual politics is. Like you run, and then there's a dead point, and then you run again.
He's not he wasn't an activist. Yeah. And I actually have the people are gonna. I'm not supposed to admit this, but I'm actually friends with Bill Weld. Now after getting a lot of the credit for driving him out of the party, and I have some regrets around that. But no, I consider Bill Weld and especially what he's doing now, challenging Trump. That's awesome. And I don't. Bill Weld is not a libertarian in the sense that I think we would define it, but he's an activist. I respect him for being an activist more than a politician. At least more so than Gary.
You don't think he kind of fooled us a little bit?
I didn't say he. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to put him in the spot,
but I don't think it's a bad thing to be friends with people who have different ideas.
No, right? Or even be and even with the worst accusations, if you want to say Bill Weld betrayed the Libertarian Party, and yeah, in some ways he did.
Well, and the worst thing
I just said fooled, so betrayed is
the worst thing.
Oh, whooops! Did I use that word? Let me politically walk that back. No.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is the worst thing that libertarians can do is just talk to themselves. I mean, for God's sakes, when we talk to ourselves, we're losing, man. I mean, absolutely.
The only way that I learn how to talk to other people is by having those other people challenge my ideas.
Damn right.
And I'm still flabbergasted just from being here. I've had some people who are like, hey, you don't like the libertarians just want to eliminate everything. So why do you want to eliminate the FDA? I'm like, hey, don't start on the FDA. And I'm starting to understand that food apparently is more important to them than talking about like the military and so forth. So that is something that's good for us to be like, okay, this is how we talk to individuals.
Yeah.
Well, since you bring up that subject, may I segue to the platform and the strategic
I'm sorry to get ahead,
proposition? Because anytime you introduce me as a presidential candidate, or I have to introduce myself as a presidential candidate,
I think everybody knows you, man. I really do.
I throw up in my mouth a little bit because you have to be some kind of psychopath to want to be president of the United States, even as a benign. I'm gonna put on the ring of power, and I'm not gonna be corrupted. I'm gonna be the benign dictator. No, and with respect to the other candidates, and I will say I think Joe Jorgensen also is in the category of being genuinely well intentioned, and would also, as along with the others, be potentially a great representative of the party. That my platform is to resign on day one and to localize the federal government in a peaceful, orderly bankruptcy process that leaves us with 50 independent states up to 562 sovereign native nations. I'm not putting on the ring of power. I'm throwing it directly into the fire.
Mordor.
And to what you were saying, Banks, about the issues as gateways, I think we have been presenting, and I include myself in this, libertarianism incorrectly for most of my time as an activist. And I've been evolving out of this by, over the last 4 or 5 years even. We're playing their game when we make it about this issue or that issue, or it's this position. Like, are you pro-life or pro-choice? Are you open borders or closed borders? Like, no, like your premises of these questions are wrong. This is not a political movement.
And you said it created enemies where there shouldn't be any.
Yes, because you're playing their game of arguing aesthetics. We should be arguing ethics. Because this is an ethical message, not a political message. And the aesthetics, how we want things to look in our communities. I want to live in a community where guns are banned. That's not me. Don't get me wrong. But no, But, I say this as the talking point that I like to repeat is that despite being a member of the tribe,
you're not an anti-Semite.
Yeah, right. No. I'm half Jewish by ethnicity and heritage, and my grandparents left Europe to avoid World War II and went to Montreal, and then my mom met my dad in the United States. And I was born in San Francisco. We have the birth certificate. There's no questions. The long form, the short form.
It doesn't matter anymore.
Everything, but no, don't tell people I'm half Jewish and half Canadian. Yeah, so I see that. I see the rise of fringe white nationalism in the United States, and I mean I can laugh at it, but it is at some visceral level disturbing, and I can still say as a libertarian, okay, you want an ethno-state?
Yeah.
You want to form it on private property? You're not going to force it on anybody else. It's a voluntary people coming to... You know what? That's disgusting. I want you to have that right.
That's right.
I respect your right to do that. On the flip side, you're a gun-grabbing socialist who wants to live in a nudist commune in the woods. Like, I'll take my entertainment value from a distance. I don't want to live there. But, I want you to have that.
Yeah.
And see, this is... My real fundamental proposition as a strategic departure in messaging for the Libertarian Party is let's stop playing their game.
Well, let's play that out too for a second, right? Let's talk about that for a second. When you talk about people coming in, I hate balkanizing, but balkanizing an area, right? Because of similar interests and similar beliefs, and that's all part of what the quote unquote great American experiment was all about. Now
we do it already on a daily basis in our interest.
Now here's
this is why we're here today.
Here's the other thing, right? Is when you venture out from those areas after living in them for a while, right? Like you've got what you want. You are probably minus some aspect of whatever you don't like.
Yeah.
For most of your day too, right? So throughout your day, you're not sitting there going, "Well, damn it, Blackie," like you can't blame damn it, Barack.
This is your politically correct imitation of racism.
This is ridiculous. And this is what I'm actually talking about, though. I mean, if you don't have that interaction anymore by choice, and because it's out of your daily lives.
Forced association breeds resentment and furthers racism, incites racism. Look at jails.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Prison gangs.
Yeah. Schools, for God's sake.
Schools, yeah, for children, you're indoctrinating them in that from the beginning.
Absolutely. Man, this got really philosophical real quick.
Got deep. It happens.
That's
bad habit of getting deep.
So, all right, day one, you're throwing the ring in.
Yeah, so the policy is, looking at this from the standpoint of being a bankruptcy agent for a corporation that's been bankrupt for a long time. And is frankly unsustainable. And when you hear about this for the first time, it sounds radical. And it is radical in the best sense of the word, of striking at the root. The root is coercive government that is a centralized authority that doesn't respect your right to declare your independence, to say, I don't want to be a part of the system anymore. I'm not going to let you force me into this. So as someone who's an ethicist, I'm a voluntarist first and foremost. That's the foundation of my libertarianism, is understanding the ideal of ethics, that all human relations should be voluntary, free of force, fraud, and coercion. Win-win relationships instead of win-lose relationships. Maximizes value, all the good that flows from that. It's the most practical application of principle. So this came to me, maybe I should explain this sort of by backing up and telling the story real quick of the campaign, which is that its genesis was 2012. I went to the Bilderberg conference in Northern Virginia, not as an attendee, as one of the protesting journalists on the outside when I was doing Adam versus the Man out of Northern Virginia, and it was my first chance to meet Alex Jones in person, and one of the people in his network that was Jason Behrman, and he stuck around and debated freedom versus statism. And at some point he goes, "Oh yeah, well, what would you do if you were president?" And I was like, "What would I do if I was president?" And then he's like, "No, really." It's like, "Well, I'd quit, go home, and get a real job." What do you like? This is I don't think I could, in good conscience, assume an authority that I reject on moral premises. Like democracy is the majority forcing its will on the minority. If you don't want someone to be president, if you don't want me to be your president, if I don't win with 100% consent of every single American to be your president, I don't want the job. And that's not how it works. It's forced on pretty much everybody. Like it really, the actual people who vote for a president, if you look at it as the general population, you take out felons and minors, people who aren't allowed to vote, people who don't vote, it ends up being
it's minuscule.
Like 25, no, like
even
25,
those people
30%
are
or
really
less.
kind of coerced into their choice because of the way the parties are run.
They're voting for the lesser evil.
Given the resounding idea that's drilled into America that, hey, you have the quote unquote right to vote, right? Like you've only got 20%.
No, you don't have a right to force your opinion on someone else. Simple as that. So Jason Behrman, kept asking me questions. Well, what about this? And eventually it came, well, okay, I declare bankruptcy. Well, we get rid of it. And over the at first it was just this intellectual exercise, but then over the years people started asking me questions like, well, what about this? What about that? And I didn't take it seriously. When Ron Paul was running for president and I was organizing veterans for Ron Paul, and people did their fantasy cabinets for a Ron Paul presidency, they put me down for Secretary of Defense. And I was like, whoa. I was a sergeant. You want me to be Secretary of Defense under a constitutional government with President Paul? Like, no freaking way. That's not real. I get my limitations here.
He's smiling though.
Yeah. But with my... with this proposal, I don't have to say I'm assuming this authority. I'm not going to have one of the things that I'm most excited about with this is I don't have to have my finger on the red button ever. We cut the cord to the red button on day one. And again, to just go down another deep sidebar real quick.
Love them.
Separating the warrior class in America from militarism is the most important thing we can do to really bring back what it means to be American, because this country was founded by rebels and patriots saying, screw you to King George, who was in charge of the biggest empire the world had ever known. We are now, in most of America, occupied by a foreign empire based in Washington, D.C.
That's right.
It is, again, the biggest empire the world has ever known. We have the chance to do exactly what the founders did and do it peacefully. Say, no, we're going to end the biggest empire the world has ever known. And it's sick because the founders were against a standing army, not the framers, but the founders.
Yeah.
They said we shouldn't have a standing army. We should have a decentralized militia-based defense. That we have gotten so far from that. That is at the heart of the perversion, the failure of America, is that we have allowed militarism to pervert the warrior class. People say, thank you for your service. I say, you mean for serving bankers, politicians, and war profiteers?
People's mouth hits the floor when you say that to them.
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
Well, but they listen, and they're always respectful. If I got to play the veterans card for people, oh, well, you risked your life for this country, I guess I'll listen to you. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, then you're going to listen to this.
Yeah.
Militarism is a cancer on the warrior class in America. You can thank me for the reasons that I joined, but it was dangerously and irresponsibly naive of me to think that joining the military was serving the country, not the political class.
This audience, I'll tell you right now, they're clapping. I say that shit all the time.
I think
man.
there's still a bunch of them who are on the path, but
I agree.
Having more veterans say that.
Yeah.
Where and
Making
change
it
that
okay,
that
right?
automatism in their brain to say thank you for your service is quite interesting.
There was a quote by Jordan Peterson that I talked about. It's not the average man or whatever that's a dangerous person, or that's not a dangerous person that's a good man. It's a very dangerous man that has it under control that's a good man. And talking about the warrior class in those terms in America was birthed out of this warrior class.
And we have become soldiers. It is the perversion of a warrior into a
Non-thinking.
soldier, because a warrior is someone who stands up for what is just and righteous and will put their lives on the line to defend the innocent. A soldier is someone who takes orders from politicians.
Yeah, and a paycheck.
And, yes, those are my definitions, but that's a very important distinction.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, man. And
So for you two veterans, though, how do other veterans who aren't woke yet, to use for lack of a better term, respond to your assertions?
It's mixed. It runs the whole spectrum, but most of them are open to hearing it, and it's undeniable now. And this is an important shift of the internet effect.
Yeah.
And you think about people like here at the state convention, Martin Cowan has been active with the Georgia State Party since 1972. He's running for Congress now. It's amazing that people like him are still active, that we have this heritage in the party and the movement, because when they woke up, they were alone.
Right.
Now you wake up, hey, you join Facebook groups that have 5,000, 10,000 people like in your state. Like you're part of an instant community. Not only has the movement grown, but we're more connected, and it's an exponential factor. And so to the question about veterans, 22 veteran suicides a day, that's a real thing, right?
And that's half.
Hey,
it's
hey, did your recruiter lie to you? Yeah, really? Okay. So did your buddies who you saw die in Iraq or Afghanistan, was that worth it? And it's like, oh shit. And if you can get a vet, like they won't listen to, and I hate to say, because I hate to say hippies, but like they won't listen to a hippie. It's a really bad shorthand. I'm a hippie at heart. I have a lot of friends who are hippies. My mom's half hippie, but there's from a veteran to a veteran to say, no, dude, you need to look at this honestly. And I think what I figured out rhetorically of being able to say, embrace what it means to be a warrior, not a soldier.
Yeah.
And your country still needs you.
Yeah, more than ever. Like, and this is the brilliant part. And I was talking with this guy last night, is that now I've got a seed. Right now, to give people purpose, and I said the same thing to Hornberger. I was saying, you give these guys a real purpose, and you wake them up, and you sit there and you say, hey, listen, everything that you thought and were indoctrinated with in terms of loving this country, its people, its belief system, its structure, and how you bust your ass and eke out a living for yourself, and then see the human condition rise, that is that threat from the inside. And I can tell you why, and I can give you just a little bit. It's like the baby bird syndrome, right? You give them a bit, you give them a little bit, and you let them digest it, and then the self-learning takes over, and now they've got a purpose.
If the troops defended freedom, they'd attack the government. And I want to share this one tactical approach that I've come up with for getting in the debates. And I'm making the commitment here that I'm going to organize this best I can for whomever the nominee for president of the Libertarian Party is, to get them in the debates. I hope it's myself leading this and taking point for 2020. Of course, it's an incredible honor, but regardless, here's what we're going to do. And this is a combination of two things we've seen in the past that have been reasonably successful, and it was when Ralph Nader was running for president in 2008 and was not allowed in the debates despite polling in a way, high enough that he should have been included in the debate. Obviously, the presidential commission on presidential debates, whatever its official title is a wing of the duopoly. They're not here to have fair, open debates for the American people. And if they want to shut you out, they'll shut you out. And what I've told people is, I'm going to be in the debate of the national conversation one way or another. I will be unignorable as the nominee of the Libertarian Party. But for the debates themselves, I fully expect that we will be shut out. The other idea to combine here is what we did for Veterans for Ron Paul. We marched on the White House with a formation of about 500 vets. We did a proof of service check with every single one. Of course, if someone wants to forge documents, they're going to see. But I'm confident that everybody in that formation was a military veteran. Yeah, and they marched. It was good. We marched in formation for the ragtag group of bonus army type, protesters. We marched and people were wearing. We didn't want anybody to be like pretending to be in uniform, but we said wear a cover. A hat from your military service, and something presentable. Other than that, a lot of people were in suits. So if I'm the nominee, and I know we can do this. If I'm the nominee, if anybody else is, I think we can still do it. But to have a formation of veterans marching on the debates.
Oh, I'd love it.
In civil disobedience, right up to say we're gonna break in. If this can have our candidate at the front of the formation, if you don't let this person debate, we are veterans, we serve this country. You want to play the veterans card? This is how you do it. You got to listen to this guy.
Yep.
We put our lives on the line. If you think we put our lives on the line for you, you better listen to this guy. And we're willing to get arrested. We're going to march in formation. We're going to be a presence. That's how we're going to be in the debates. It's going to be more of a story than the debates themselves. No matter who they put up for a chump to debate Trump, it's going to be the story that, hey, the libertarians had veterans behind them who wanted them to get in the debate, and the duopoly shut them out.
Yeah,
that's an awesome idea. Would you just stand in front of the location, or would you try to forcibly go into the location?
I think there would be,
and if there's some strategy you don't want to talk about.
Well, I can. There is going to be a final approach that we're probably going to make public, because you want it to be out in the open. We're not trying to do anything that would require any kind of covert action here, because we want everybody to be on the same page.
And that's the best way to protect yourself, is just be open up.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the public.
So
give them as much information as they want.
Yeah. So I'm willing to get arrested trespassing to make the statement of to demonstrate. Yes, they kept. Because this is what was with Nader in his situation. He was not allowed on the premises. Like, they told him that in advance. Okay. So he went there, and there were police doing the security, and he got arrested for trespassing, and it was an actual criminal offense. And if we have to say it, we got 1,000 veterans who are willing to get arrested to say, you got to listen to this guy. Then I think we're going to figure out a way to do that with the police presence there that's organized and civil, and keeping the civil in civil disobedience. But yeah, we are going to be. You want to shut us out? You're going to have to actually arrest us. You're going to have to actually bring buses. And we did this actually with the Iraq Veterans Against the War in Hofstra, and it was just protesting outside the debate. It wasn't as targeted as this. And this does take warriors. At that event in Hofstra, we had horse-mounted police dispersing crowds. That's not what they're for. And a friend of mine, Nick Morgan, got stepped on his face by a horse. And he was really lucky. It grazed his cheekbone. But they brought him on the bus, and they had him patched up, and he was bleeding. And we were like, and I mean the bus that was like to carry us to jail to get processed. And we were like, no, you get that guy to an ambulance.
Yeah.
And they took him to the hospital. He was handcuffed to the bed the whole time. But yeah, he needed surgery to rearrange the bones in his face. And he's like, he didn't have any brain damage. He has some nerve damage and like some issues with nerve endings on that side of his face. But yeah, we are asking, when we do something like this, and from my past that I've done this.
Yep.
I've done it by myself as solo actions. I've done it with groups. I've arranged other people, walking into that civil disobedience situation. And yeah, if that's what it takes to get people's attention, I think warriors being willing to stand up and say, yeah, we're still fighting for this. And we're fighting in a deeper, more important way, actually standing up for freedom, actually standing up for the American people.
If you come up there and you make everything public, you say, hey, we're coming in peace. All we demand is that we're heard.
Yeah.
And
that's it.
That's it. We're not coming armed, guys. We want peace.
Yep.
That if you can make that abundantly clear every time you talk about it, bottom line up front, we're coming in peace, but we will be heard. Period. That's it. There's not strategy at that point. I'll tell you now. You know Scott Horton,
of course. Yeah, we're old friends. Back to the Ron Paul days.
Getting Scott and the rest of these guys in their audiences and telling them, hey, everything that we're doing with this anyway. I mean, use the energy and ignite a group of guys that have been there and done it. I know tons of guys like this. I would. This is one of those things where you just start getting really like, okay, this
has to happen.
Yeah, this is amazing.
It's one of those ideas you're just like,
I'm coming to watch.
This happen. No, there will be.
I'll gladly participate, but I can see the idea of it being just veterans being more powerful.
Yeah, there's a huge role.
Even if you split the veterans up in two, where you have some who are there, you're all there, and whoever wants to do the trespassing thing goes like.
Oh yeah, further. that also of course you have the first few rows, the first ranks of the formation, or
put them in suits.
Yeah,
put them in
wear
suits.
Wear a suit and some cover from your military service.
Maybe a tie-dye T-shirt underneath your suit. Man, I'll tell you right now. Like I don't know. My brain's twisting and turning right now.
I mean, you let people wear whatever they want.
That's right.
But then I get to decide who stands up front.
For bringing the libertarian side to that argument.
Exactly. Yeah, we got to get.
But no, for stuff like this, you can just request, hey, please show up with a suit and a military cover and be presentable. And that's like we're going to be respectful and represent ourselves as veterans. Be presentable, be professional, wear something that presents that is a visual representation of you as a vet. Whatever you feel is appropriate.
Yeah.
And so, if any candidate wins, if you ask them and they accept, you'll do this for them as
well.
If
they assuming there's not an objection for the campaign, like I would be organizing like of any of the I don't want to say any candidate because there's actually like I heard yesterday there were 300 to 400 or something actually filed for the Libertarian nomination.
I'm not surprised.
And it's actually like a few thousand or something that file every year for the presidency as independents or Democrats and Republicans and just
that's incredible.
Never register anything serious. They're just paper candidates who want to say, "Oh, I ran for president." Okay.
So there's an opportunity.
But I just want to say for any of the candidates that we've seen getting around on the trail and coming to debates who are like I said, the ones I named that would all at least be great representatives of the party potentially. I'll be organizing veterans for them. That's what if I'm not the nominee, then that's what I'm going to do for the general election campaign.
Love it. And I was going to say, I'm going to give a speech in here for Senate here in a couple minutes, and if we're successful, to be able to stand there with you as a candidate for Senate, man.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, so to bring in other libertarian candidates
Shane
as well.
just announced it to the podcast. They don't really know you.
Beautiful.
It's an official nomination. At least being
waiting to get the blessing of the party first.
Yeah,
so respectful.
Yeah, I'm not going to be that guy. Trust me, I didn't want to do it. You can tell my chicken stretch speech that I'm going to give. So, but hey, man, when duty calls, right?
Yeah, no, and for everybody, like this is why I like the warrior versus soldier framing. It's not about whether you're a vet or not.
Yeah.
If anything, you're probably more of a warrior for not falling for the soldier racket. And learning.
He didn't have as much indoctrination. Yeah. Banks's backstory is amazing. He avoided public school and lived in countries, and it's awesome.
My dad isn't a veteran either, but the civil disobedience thing,
he might
beg you to be a part of
it. Hey man, how do we help you out? Because we got to get in there in a second. Tell us.
So we got a few minutes. I suppose the policy deserves a little more explanation.
Go for it,
quick. But yeah, and this strategy proposal of localization and saying, look, it's not government should this, should that, shouldn't this, shouldn't that. It's you can have as much or as little government as you want as long as it's voluntary. How do we transition to that? Localization. It's really simple. And this platform is embarrassingly moderate in the sense that, while it is striking at the root of saying let's decentralize government from the beginning get it to like it's striking at the coercive nature of government by saying, let's localize it to the point that it's voluntary, where you as an individual have the ability to opt out if you want. You can have as much or as little or no government at all if that's what you want. And this concept of localization, I call it the everybody gets what they want strategy. And we don't have to argue the aesthetics of the ideology anymore. It's just, okay, you're a liberal, you live in a liberal state, you're a conservative, you live in a conservative state. Check it out. Right away, you both get more of what you want.
That's right.
And as libertarians, we should be seeking to make the message easy to understand, to make it relatable, and to put forth practical policy that achieves it. And to say, we're going to keep the federal government going, and I'm going to be president, and we're going to bring it back to the Constitution, despite having a Congress and Senate that are still with the old, like, no, that's not realistic.
Yeah. No, the anti-federalists made it very clear before we even did it.
yeah. The federal government of the United States, it's already bankrupt.
Long time ago.
A long time ago. It's overgrown. It's not what the founders envisioned, and it's unsustainable.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally unsustainable. It's not going to last forever. It's going to collapse if we don't address it first, if we don't take responsibility, face up to it, apply a solution as big as the problem. And I'm going to keep running until we win or the federal government ceases to exist, as long as support keeps building for this campaign. And it's been amazing over the last 2 years how it's built. So realistically, looking at 2020, it's going to take a black swan kind of event for a libertarian to win. And I think this campaign represents the best shot at that. Having an idea that actually, like what I hear on the trail and with the bus traveling with No Force One, every other time we stop and get gas, it's an impromptu campaign stop. It's a lot of fun. And what I hear more than anything else is something like, I don't normally vote, but I'd come out and vote for that. It's like giving Americans the first real choice that we've had since the revolution. Yeah. And it's a unifying message. It brings people together. So
you are a hippie, aren't you?
I
love it.
I'm
think,
an American.
I think peace and love and all the corny shit, we need much more of it.
Yeah, well, no, I have no problem saying, yeah, this is about love. This is about ethics. It's about love and respect for your fellow human beings, first and foremost. That you want to live this way, you want to live that way. Let's not be enemies forced into a centralized system. Let's respect that. I'm an American imperialist in the absolute ideological sense. If America is about freedom, that's about ethics, that's about love, we should lead the world forward in freedom as we did with the first American Revolution. We do it with leading the way forward in localization, showing that we can, again, take down the biggest empire in the world.
Yep.
And we can really restore what it means to be American in such a way that being American is something that is part of the heritage of the whole human family. Like, that's where this goes.
And even if you don't like the ideas that could be spread on the other side of the country, we're here on the East Coast, you should understand that it's not a good, as it said before, to try to force one's ideas on somebody. But if you can lead by example, I would contend that if we live in a voluntary society, at one point, there's even going to be a bigger kumbaya moment where we agree on almost everything.
Yeah, species, right?
Yep.
Like I've said it before, like if man can keep natural law, he can endure. Like if a nation of people can keep natural law, they can rise out of the muck and the mire to heights. But if a species gets it, man, you're talking about interplanetary stuff that is absolutely. I'm not kidding.
3D printing rocket ships in our backyards to populate the cosmos.
You just walk through portals, man.
There we go. Yeah, portal guns are coming.
So I'll finish up with one personal question. Try to make it good. Is there something outside of politics, nothing to do with libertarianism, liberty, or so forth, that you find cool? Something new?
Yeah.
A hobby,
that's easy.
New like whiskey?
That's easy. And it is very much related in lifestyle terms.
I kind of assume.
But yeah, of course. Alternative construction, off-grid living, homesteading. I took the Earthship Academy in Taos, New Mexico for a month and learned how to build my own house. An Earthship is a fully self-sustaining off-grid home built primarily from recycled materials, tires, bottles, and cans. And you get a thermal mass home that requires no heating or cooling bills with passive solar, rain collection, water recycling, solar power, totally off-grid, self-sustaining, and it feeds you because it's got a built-in greenhouse as part of the water and thermal regulation and sunlight system.
One more time for the crane eater.
Earthship. Yeah, one word, Earthship, and that's Mike Reynolds' brand. But it's a
building a house right
techniques.
Now. Just broke ground. On a mountain,
you need to
away
stop
from
and
everybody.
If you're building a house, and that's part of this is part of my American dream, and I could describe to answer your question as a hobby: homesteading and alternative construction.
Got it.
And I've got 10 acres in the mountains in northern Arizona, and I'm building earthships and all sorts of other fun homesteading off-grid stuff. And if this is of interest to you, if you're considering building a home, you got to know what an earthship is. You got to at least consider that as one potential construction concept. I studied earth bag, underground, straw bale, cob, cordwood, like every
whole nother show.
mode of alternative construction. I on my last tour, before we bought the land a few years ago, I had my pile of books with me on the road, was all these alternative construction books, and then I was like, I think earthships, and I went into the academy, and it was great. So and for anybody who wants to do that, like. Yeah. So back to the platform though. What we get, and if a state secedes by itself, you don't get your stuff back. We dissolve the federal government, which owns 50% of the land in the western states. We give that back directly to the people. We are not just reclaiming our freedom, overthrowing this monstrosity. We are reclaiming our birthright, our heritage, our potential. Yeah. And when I talk about being the bankruptcy agent, we disown the debt on paper. You can't, it's intergenerational child abuse to force your kids to pay for stuff that they never even had a say in. Yeah, no, that's an illegitimate debt. Yeah. The real debt is to the American people. And the way we do it is we issue a digital currency that's a token called AmeriCoin. Every American gets 1,000 by Social Security. And that's essentially a coupon and it's going to function as a currency, but it's the only currency that we accept for the assets of the federal government that we're liquidating, including the land. And that's the biggest piece.
And so at some point it just expires, which is fine too.
No. Well, when the auction, basically we auction off all the assets of the federal government
that's
parcels.
Part of the bankruptcy
so it's
process,
so at the process it's done, and then the remainder as it's happening gets paid out through Social Security. So Social Security is also spun off as a public trust. VA, same thing. We don't have to get rid of the VA. Man, you're gonna make me sound like a moderate now.
Well, here we go.
No, the VA
secretly.
We give it. We give it to veterans.
Dude.
Yeah, no, we give it to veterans. Give every veteran in America one ownership voting share on a blockchain. Give it an endowment, and we spin it off, and we end the drug war. You give the VA to veterans and the drug war, I guarantee you're not gonna have 22 veteran suicides a day.
I hope to have you back on, or we hope to have you back on to talk about the details and the mechanics, because they're obviously
there's a lot. I've thought it all out.
So much.
I'm waiting for like the 10-hour interview of someone going, what about this agency and this agency and this sub-agency? Because I've gone through the federal org chart. I have all the answers.
So don't stop, Adam. It will be 10 hours.
Yeah. Well, it's going to happen. Somebody's going to step up, Frost Nixon style.
Where do we help you? Tell everybody.
My main website is thefreedomline.com. All three words, thefreedomline.com. You don't have to remember how to spell my funny last name, which is actually an Ellis Island Americanized way of saying Smith from Old German. Kokesh is just funny. So I'm Adam Smith. But no, KokeshForPresident.com. You can find it through thefreedomline.com.
Man, it's been a pleasure and an honor, man. I wish you all the luck.
Thanks.
Safe travels out there. Okay?
It's been a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity.
Take care, brother.
And we're back with another presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. His name is Dan Behrman. He wears a funny hat, but with a very serious message on it. Dan, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for
Great performance in there, by the way.
Thank you.
I mean, seriously, I was, when guys come around with hats like that, you don't expect them to be, I guess, very well spoken.
Thank you.
I think it's probably one of the things that the Libertarian Party has lacked over the years is the ability to communicate effectively, and so well done.
Yeah.
You might want to put that microphone a little closer to your
close
mouth,
to you, man. You don't have to touch it like we do or anything.
Just trying not to move my head so my hat won't fall.
if you guys are not watching on YouTube this time, you should totally go search for Rebellion Podcast and
subscribe.
Thank you, Dan.
Oh yeah, we never say subscribe to the podcast, do we?
So you've got a different.
Brings you good fortune already.
Thank you so
much. Is it a
much.
magical hat?
It's like this give and take relationship. I love this. It's good stuff. All through consent too. Tell me the story behind the hat.
So okay, 2016 when Johnson got the nomination, I went into it. I was supporting McAfee. I was working on his campaign. But I had the mindset, okay, out of all the candidates who win up there, I'll support any of them because they're great guys. I knew Gary Johnson was, a fair tax guy, so he wasn't taxation is theft. So, but I was like, okay, that's one small thing. He's mostly libertarian, so I thought. And he got the nomination. He got up there. He made his acceptance speech. And as he's rallying the troops, he says, "And taxation is theft." And everybody cheered for him. And I'm like, you fucking liar. So I kind of like, at that point, I was like, oh man, what's going on here? So I started going around the party and I'm like, is taxation theft? Is taxation theft? I asked everybody. And I got one of two answers. I got yes, absolutely, or something to that effect. And verbatim, well, no.
And then obviously litmus test fail right there, right?
No, it was actually, well, yeah, for that, but it was, okay, that's full enough. It was divided about 50-50, which was ironic because Gary Johnson won by like 51 or 50.5% or something like that. So I kind of like took this understanding that, okay, there is a big part of this party that's missing the point that taxation is theft because it's a violation of consent.
Yeah.
And so, like, this should be like one of the core principles of the party platform. It violates consent. It violates your right to own property and to trade it with whoever you want without interference from the government. So I came to the 2018 convention in New Orleans and I said, okay, I'm going to buy a table. I started doing the taxation is theft t-shirts online and I just started selling those. And I was like, I need to do this big. I need this entire party to know taxation is theft. And if you don't believe taxation is theft, you need to start coming around. And so I made this huge setup, t-shirts, everything else. And I was like, what else can I do? What else can I do? I got an 8x8 foot backdrop that says taxation is theft. And then also says the TiT logo, which is like capital T, lowercase I, you know, it's a really nice logo. Someone actually stole it. And I was like, hey, that's cool because they were actually doing good stuff with it. So I was like, yeah, you can have it.
Yeah, because we don't believe in IP anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as he's not pretending to be me, okay, it's cool. Yeah, so then I was like, what else can I do? What else can I do? I found this little yellow carpet and I was like, yellow carpet in front of the 8x8 backdrop. It'll be like the red carpet except yellow. So many things. And I was like, what else can I do? What else can I do? And then I was like, I need a big ass hat.
And this is it? Is this the original?
This is the original. You can see it's kind of dirty. This has been photographed in front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris. It's been to Uganda. It's been to Australia. It's been around the world. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It comes with me and I take
clean
pictures.
and still in pretty good shape.
It's kind of, I don't know. Well, to tell you the truth, I only got this in New Hampshire last week. So
yeah, what?
After we're done, if you'll let me, I'd love to take a picture of myself in the hat.
Ooh, does that happen?
If it's only for your head, then that's perfectly fine.
I mean, you can wear it, but I don't know if you'll fit in it. But sure, we can try.
Oh, we're having fun here on the Rebellion. So you knocked it out of the park. I know everybody wants to know. Foreign policy is the big thing out there. Foreign policy, what's your stance?
Bring everyone home right now.
Yeah. Everywhere, every country.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. There's no reason for us to be anywhere. And yes, there are going to be consequences to that, but at the same time, if we stay there, then the consequences only get worse and worse and worse. It's like we got to pop the balloon at some point. And some people say, well, we just got to put a little bit more air in first. Well, when it pops, it's going to pop even bigger.
Yeah, they're not Thomas Paine people at all, right? Like,
yeah.
Let trouble come in my day.
Yeah, this is really what it is. And, we shouldn't have been there in the first place. Now, here's the thing, because a lot of people say, like, oh, yeah, but around the world, there's all kinds of problems. Yes, there are. There are tyrants and dictators and all these other problems. But here's a few things we have to understand. If we want to change that, we can't be tyrants and go in and say, we're going to remove your government and put another one that we think is okay. No, we have to lead by example. We have to teach them. We can educate them. And people who want to, we're not stealing money from people to pay for a government military to forcefully go in and do whatever the government decides, because their history of making good decisions is really bad. What we do is we say, look, if you want to voluntarily contribute to an organization that is affecting that region, if you want to go there and fight, which I've known people who have been in the U.S. and they've got family in Bosnia or other places, they're going to go there and fight and they're going to support their country. I know people who are going to Cuba and Venezuela, and some of them are doctors, they're bringing medical supplies, they're helping people for free. Some of them are fighters, they're helping to train and organize people so that they can fight back against governments who are violently attacking their people. Mm-hmm. This is all voluntary. And this is the best way to do it, because ultimately if the U.S. government comes in and does it by force, well, for one thing, it's probably not about saving those people. It's about saving the oil that's under their feet.
That's right.
So, this is, if we do want to help other countries around the world, that's the way we got to do it. Lead by example and help them out individually, consensually.
I appreciate the focus on telling people there are other options that you can actually have a personal effect on. I'll tell people, hey, I don't want us to give money to Israel because it's taxpayer money and theft and so forth. But you could do it yourself. Right. And if a certain country wasn't enough threat and I thought they were on the right side, I might do it. So there are alternatives to war. Some of them are effectively war. Do you think there's any alternatives that the United States government should use in face of certain threats? And
Sure.
that might be a trick question. I'm telling you in advance so you don't think that it's a weird question.
Yeah, alternatives to war are not to create them. I mean, see, this is what's interesting. Like, if
That just sounds so simple.
it is.
And that's why I said it was a trick question, because that is the answer.
Don't start no shit, won't be no shit.
But I didn't want you to go like, well, what are these alternatives, and just pick something out like sanctions and so forth.
Right.
Yeah, the only alternative is let's just not create them.
Yeah, no, sanctions, embargoes, this is all violence, because you're talking about, I've been to Uganda, and if you want to buy a new car there, your options are to spend $30,000, roughly the equivalent of $30,000, to buy a car that is 20 years old, that was totaled in the United States, repaired and rebuilt, and then shipped there, and you're paying $30,000 for it.
Wow.
Why? Because of embargoes, import taxes, and all this other crap.
Wow.
That does not help. Now, of course, that's an example where they're taxing their own imports, but they're taxing other countries. It's affecting the people. It's affecting the trade. When you put an import tariff on a country, you're kind of hurting the government, but you're hurting the people even more. Look at Cuba. We've got trade embargoes on Cuba, and what's the result of that? We're leaving them practically in the Stone Age. Now, of course, they've been able to trade with other countries, and they're not as far behind. But all of that stuff. You look at Mexico. Why is it that you can look at the border between U.S. and Mexico, and you've got so much wealth right here on one side and so much poverty right there on the other side?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Imaginary lines.
But it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up. And so we have to consider that a lot of that is because of trade policies which lead to war. And then you've got what a lot of American companies are doing to gain control of foreign resources, and this is how they screw South America and Africa, and China is now doing this to Africa and Australia, is they come in and say, we're going to lend you tons of money knowing that you have no way to pay it back because your people are too poor to pay these to repay the loan, and they say, oh yeah, we're gonna build you an airport and a seaport, and it's gonna make you so much money, but then the money doesn't come, and then they can't tax their people, they can't pay the loan, and then the owner of the loan comes in and says, oh well, we want to extract all your resources, and we're going to use your seaports and your roads and airports and everything to extract them.
There's an awesome book about that called Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you haven't read it, go out there.
It's amazing.
Like, he's not making this up. This is actually planned.
We should cover it in the
government
show.
studies how to do that.
Yeah.
And China is using that as a playbook for what they're doing now in Africa. They're building roads, but they're bringing their own workers to build the roads, so they're not even giving jobs to the Africans. And they're going to use this, and they're creating this tremendous amount of debt for those countries that the citizens can't pay, and they're going to end up extracting resources. And of course, when that doesn't happen, that's when they send in the jackals, or they start a war with that country. And that's exactly what's going on with the Middle East, who wants to trade with, some other form of dollar for, some other currency for their oil. And U.S. is like, nope, sorry, you're using the dollar, or we're dropping bombs on you.
So awesome setup. So that means that the Chinese are the bad guys here. Doesn't that mean we should put like extravagant tariffs on them to punish them for being such bad guys?
What we need to do, again, is lead by example. And what I'm doing with my friends in Africa is they're organizing and they're teaching liberty to everybody that they can. Because they need to understand that they need to get control of their government. They need to refuse to accept the debt that their governments are borrowing in their name.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to prevent it from happening. Because, yeah, we could go in and bomb some stuff, but that's only going to make things worse.
Yeah, it seems weird that if there's one tariff happening, if we're just talking about like a tariff war, there's one tariff happening, so some people are getting stolen, that the solution would be to steal from some other people. I'm kind of curious.
Don't worry, banks are all poor. Don't worry.
I haven't asked this of somebody else. Your story about the embargoes in Uganda kind of led me there. How did you find out about that like loophole that they get to salvage cars? And for some reason, it leads me to think, what do you do for a living?
I'm a software engineer.
Okay.
So that's pretty much that. I don't know. It's fun sometimes. Sometimes it's boring as shit. when I went to Uganda, and like, this is the thing. Like, I went in there with the mindset, okay, I'm here for like 4 days. I need to learn as much as I possibly can.
Okay.
So I just started like looking and observing everything, having conversations. One of the guys started a pineapple wine company, so they were making wine out of pineapple, which is awesome because I fucking love pineapples, especially on pizza.
And there he goes, guys. Okay,
all right.
This is done.
Thank you very much.
What did I say?
This is fun.
So I'm learning about all this. I'm learning about the taxes. I bought a bottle of water at just like a little grocery store, and which is rare because most people buy in little bodegas like in the neighborhood. They have all kinds of stuff. A little bottle of water, and there was an 18% sales tax on it.
Wow.
Or an IVA tax. And so, I had these conversations with people like, oh yeah, but the government is, they help to give us clean drinking water, and that's why we have to pay taxes. And I just reached in my pocket and I said, do you see this receipt? Do you see that tax? They're taxing your water on top of whatever other taxes you're paying.
Yeah.
It's insane. And so, I was talking to people about these, why don't you have technology here? My friend was there who was a doctor, Kyle Varner. He was there with me, and he was talking about he went to the hospital, and he said they don't have an MRI or any of this stuff. And we were like asking, why not? Why isn't this here? Well, the same thing. You can import a used one from another country. You can buy a used one pretty cheap, but then you're going to have to pay 2 or 3 times as much because of the import tariffs on top of that. So, I mean, they're out there building roads, and this goes back to the I think it was the Milton Friedman thing where he went to they were building a canal in Panama or China or something, and he said like, oh yeah, let me check out this canal project, and why are they using shovels? Where's the machinery? Why, like, don't you want to get this thing done? Oh, it's a jobs program. Right? It reminded me of that, and just seeing people out there like shoveling by hand to build a road. Where's the machinery? Yeah. Well, the Chinese building their roads, they brought all their machinery, but the people who are here doing building their roads, they're all doing it by hand. And it's like, what's the purpose of this? Well, they can't import the machinery because it's too damn expensive because of all the tariffs and everything that are on top of it. So, like, literally,
the space is just ridiculously skewed. Yeah.
Yeah, you're preventing technology from entering. You're preventing people from being able to take care of their health. You're preventing them from building infrastructure. All of these taxes, which the government tyrants are using to raise money from these people who have almost nothing, is being used to like literally keep the country in the Stone Age.
I'm finding it crazy that there's not a revolution there, but it's also making me think of like the tariffs here in the States are almost more insidious because we're more wealthy and maybe
way more comfortable,
and maybe the politicians are smarter in a bad way, and they're like, oh, we'll take enough to where they won't see it like so in their faces. Like here, we can get MRIs and so forth. We can get anything we want.
We've mentioned quite a few times the comfort index that they use, right? The comfort index is one of those things that's right. These guys really, no kidding, use, and when they can get it as low as possible and still keep order. That's the magic number, right? Like if you up that and they're too comfortable, you're leaving money on the table, basically, right. Is what it is. And so it is this really awful index and metric out there that everybody uses. And you think that they just have it for America. They've got it everywhere. What can we get away with in these situations where if these guys are comfortable enough, we're good? We can stay right there. I guarantee you that they got that dialed in pretty much everywhere.
We're going to find out in Virginia on Monday.
Yeah, damn right we are. So, yeah, let's talk about that because I have been itching for a long time to talk about it, and this will probably air after that. But what are your thoughts up there, man?
If this airs after that, I'll send you some footage. I'm going there.
Are you really?
I am.
Awesome. Be careful.
Yeah.
I've
heard
false flags, actors. You got Antifa coming in conjunction, not opposing in this case, but with the 3%ers. And
that's kind of a cool thing in a weird way.
It is. It's real cool because they're sitting there going, "Hey, listen, you guys. Nobody's talking about our side of things being disarmed." Like, that's a terrible, terrible idea. And I'm glad people are starting to wake up for it. But, like, you've seen, like, I don't want to call it a killdozer, but basically it's a cat, right, with this, like, little box on the front that's armored and everything. They got fences everywhere. You're sitting there going, like, God almighty, this looks like a free country. I mean, really.
Yeah, it really is. And it's this is like what Trump banned bump stocks.
Yeah,
and everybody was like, okay. Well, it's just bump stocks. Nobody cares. And it's like, but it's incremental. It's like waves, just like eroding a beach until there's no sand left.
That's right.
That's how it works. And that's to your point of the comfort level. It's like you take a little bit away, and then people are like uncomfortable at first, but then they get used to it. Then they do a little bit more, and they do a little bit more, and then you have situations like California where they're like, holy shit, those guys are just like raising taxes.
And they're just leaving.
Everybody leaves, so their revenue goes down, and then they're like, oh, our revenue went down. Let's raise taxes.
I mean, they've been doing that in New York forever, and New York is struggling
New York,
to keep.
New Jersey, California, like there's just mass exodus. I want to stay on guns for a second. I imagine, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but imagine ATF is like a convenience store for you in terms of policy and everything else, right?
Yes.
So all gun laws are tyrannical and despotic and should be burned, and anybody who promotes them probably thrown at least in prison, because we believe in non-aggression.
Yeah, there's actually, if you go to Alibaba.com, which is like a really, do you know the site? It's like, international trade. You can get all kinds of stuff done there. Custom-made stuff, importing from China, all kinds of stuff. You can actually buy for about $100,000 a armed, like, it's kind of like, I guess, like an MRAP or something. It's like an armed, like, tank van thing. And, you can order it and have it shipped in from China to your door.
Sounds
very
good.
cool.
But it's like, okay, but do you have to go through customs and all this other shit? Yeah, we need to get rid of that because, I mean, let's be honest. Like, shouldn't we have access to that?
Right. I mean, how are we going to throw off tyrants if we don't have access to the same equipment that they've got?
I've seen some of their stuff, which is pretty crazy. They have it's one of those bulldozers, with that's low to the ground, and in front, attached to that front, like whatever you call that on the front of a bulldozer, is like a protection for people to be inside with little turret windows.
I don't know if you were here, but we were just talking about the little killdozer, the little black one with the cat.
So that's the same thing. Okay.
Is that the one that somebody posted a picture and said, look, it's like an armored porta potty?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's not going to work out real well for those guys.
So we're all talking about the same thing. I'm kind of scared of what's happening there, honestly. My friend Patrick Day, he spent some time in jail for being a part of the BLM stuff. Wrong place, wrong time, even though he was doing the right thing.
They won, though.
Well, they won, some died, and then a lot of them spent time in jail, and he's still on probation, I think.
Wow.
But he's going to be there, and he's trying to put out this message of, hey, let's not start a civil war. Let's not like be excited about a boogaloo. And I'm worried that might happen, unfortunately.
No, I definitely understand your point there.
I don't think so. I think if the number of people that say they're going to show up, like, we're talking about tens of thousands.
They better not. That's the thing, is like, it would be,
if they do and they outnumber whatever the government sends in, they're just going to stand down and say, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
What if there's agent provocateurs who start the mess? Then you can't really tell where the fire started.
Right.
And I don't mean to be so.
That's a valid concern.
You're right, and I think Pete earlier, Kineos was saying the same thing. Is, hey, you guys going up here, be real careful, because there's going to be false flags. You've got provocateurs, you've got crisis actors, you've got everything. It's ripe for the picking right now in terms of Virginia. Some of the other big things out there, civil asset forfeiture. I'm sure you're right there on the forefront of.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of for it, because we need a way to take back all of the things that the government has taken from us. So, I mean, I don't know. Can we turn that around and use it for us?
So let's try this then. What was the last big ideological change that happened for you?
Yeah.
You had one
For
position,
me.
you change it to another one.
Oh, man. I can't really say.
Unless you were born a perfect libertarian, which is possible. I
think the way I approach everything is with an open mind. Look, I can say, like, you go back far enough, and I used to, like, ask questions like, why don't they just ban all the guns? Why don't they just print more money and fix all the homeless problems? But I would not say, like, oh, duh, I know the answer. It would be like more like, why not? And asking why not, I would get answers. And so, I hate saying this, I voted for Obama in 2008 because I thought he was anti-war, because I didn't know anything. All I knew was, like, Bush, like, his dad got us into a war.
His dad got him into a war.
And then there was Democrats, and then there was Republicans, and they got us into a war. And then, Bush Jr. got us into a war again. So we have to go back to Democrat, and then we'll get out of war.
I mean, to your credit, Obama talked about stopping wars a lot.
He was great on the campaign
He got a Nobel
trail.
Peace Prize for Christ's sake.
And that's probably what sold me, because, like, at that point I was like, okay, like I don't really understand any of this. That was my first time voting for a president. That was my first time voting at all, I think. And I was just like, okay, well, that's and then like, of course, just like heartbreak over the next 8 years, like, oh my tyrant. And then I started following Ron Paul, and that kind of got me into the Tea Party before it was Republican, which got me into the Republicans, and then I was just like, oh, this is all bullshit. And I just gave up. I was like, I'm done with everything. And then total serendipity, I came across the Libertarian Party, which that's one of my biggest issues with the Libertarian Party is they need to be advertising all over the place because there are so many people.
Our marketing, besides memes, like the LP, like I don't know what you think of the LPMC or anything, but I feel like for the first time since probably about 2012, there's some real energy around the Libertarian Party again, where members are coming in, they're excited. We've got a slew of candidates out there, and I'll tell you, I'm actually real excited about the guys like yourself who can really get out in front of crowds and articulate these values. Man, it is a breath of fresh air. Finally.
I'll do my ending question, which I ask most people. Yeah. What's something you're kind of into that doesn't have to do with politics? It can be a hobby. It can be the new favorite food you found.
Man, I'm into software. I'm into travel. I'm into, I don't know. I like just smoking a bowl and hanging out on the beach and relaxing.
Right on.
Yeah.
Sound like a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, I mean... I would love to not be involved in politics at all, but
times call for it, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And last thing I want to do is give you a couple minutes here to plug whatever you want to plug. How do we help you out?
Behrman2020.com. I need volunteers and support. Get on my mailing list. Make a donation. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. The links are all there, and there's all kinds of information on different platforms. Check it out. Go to I Side With and take the test and vote for me, and hopefully we'll be pretty close. I'm up there, like right in the same section as Ron Paul now, which is awesome.
That's cool.
And taxationistheft.cards is where I've got a lot of merchandise. That's the original Taxation is Theft store. I've got the stamps where you can stamp Taxation is Theft on your money. I've got these giant 3x5 foot.
Do you have any
flags.
of those with you?
I do.
I would love to have one of those. God, I'm just going to withdraw everything I have and just stamp it and then go put it back in. I'll get you afterward.
Okay.
But no, hey, we really appreciate you making some time here at the end of the I know a very long day. Really appreciate it, and best of luck to you. Stay safe out there on the campaign trail. Awesome. Maybe we'll have you on again here in the very near future.
Sounds good.
All right.
If not, see you in Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, ladies and gents, this is Shane. I hope you enjoyed all of these interviews. We've got a couple more. I think Lincoln Chafee and Joe Jorgensen are going to be our last of these. We may break it up at some point or not. I don't know. But if you've enjoyed the program, you found some value in it, you can go out there and support the podcast, and we'd really appreciate that at patreon.com/rebellionpod. We could really use your help getting this message out and spreading the word. We could also use your review. If you've listened to quite a few shows, more than 4 or 5, we would really appreciate you guys going out and leaving us a 5-star review. We'll read it here on the air. We're trying to keep up with as many programs as we got, and that's our challenge to you guys. So if you go out there, leave us a 5-star review, we'd really appreciate it. And of course, and as always, ladies and gents, we are just humbled to have you guys in our audience, and couldn't do it without you. So thank you guys for being everything that we need and to spread this message. You guys are just absolutely outstanding. I don't even have enough words for it, but thank you from the bottom of my heart. This has been The Rebellion, your place for peace, liberty, and free markets. We love you. We need you. Peace.
Don't hurt people and don't take their stuff.